You want to explain to me what you're doing here?
I came looking for booty. Don't make me ruin that bike, Chris. I'm a warrior.
Spring 2024, much like most of the prior seasons these past few years, was dominated by isekai shows. I mentioned a lot of them in the Spring 2024 What to Watch video, and I have to say that there were two new shows that actually stood out despite my initial hesitation to watch them. Outside of the new shows, a returning series such as Reincarnated as a Slime, Jobless Reincarnation, Konosuba, and Misfit of the Demon King Academy. These isekai shows have pre-established footholds and spots in the community, but we are going to be talking about the new series that just finished airing. Chillin in Another World with level 2 super cheat powers is one of the ones that I knew was objectively bad, but I just couldn't help but love it. It has a similar presence to a previous show I liked called The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent. The story starts with two people being summoned at the same time, and one of them being seen as the prodigy or hero. This is also a parallel within The Rising of the Shield Hero. Chillin in Another World takes this and elevates it to 100. Our main protagonist is someone who is seen as less than worthy by the people who summoned him. This is where he essentially gets ousted from the kingdom, and now he's out in the middle of these evil woods. This is where he uses a purification spell on the woods and exponentially levels him up. It soon becomes an overpowered main character show where we watch as it continuously one-shot stuff like there's Saitama. I enjoy this kind of content because the show is just a turn off your brain and watch it kind of show. It doesn't have to be anything too serious, and we can just enjoy the show without any expectations. This is what I think isekai should be at this point, as we're slowly digressing into more and more convoluted story ideas. Sure, it would be nice to have a show like Jobless Reincarnation come around and blow us out of the water within the isekai genre, but I honestly believe that it may be for the better of the health of the genre to have more simplistic fantasy shows with solid character work. I know that the more absurd the idea, the more buzz that it will get. Look at the vending machine isekai anime for Christ's sake. But I truly believe for the sake of the isekai genre, we need a full reset. Shows like Chilling in Another World with level 2 super cheat powers are a perfect example of this, with little to no work needed when it comes to reading up on lore or plot dynamics. Just make a simple story concept and run with it. The same could be said about I Was Reincarnated as the Seventh Prince. It's silly and intentionally goofy with its power structure. I got a few laughs here and there from the jokes, and overall I was thoroughly surprised after I bashed the first 2 episodes of it when watching it for the Spring 2024 overview video. It stars Lloyd as a power-hungry and arrogant child that has the abilities to make a demon plead for mercy. He tries to hide his strength, opting to stay out of a succession dispute, and is instead wanting to take his time perfecting his magic. Each arc has evolved the character of Lloyd, and I can't help but love the colorful and unique animation they have. If you like power trip fantasy shows, this one is sure to give you a good laugh and an enjoyable story arc to boot. If there's anything that we need more of, it's short and sweet shows like this. Is the concept played out? Yes, it is. But is it something that we should be sick of? Possibly. On the other hand, I think that these light novel adaptations are doing their best to keep the isekai genre afloat, whereas shows like Remonster just fuel the degen within all of us as we watch a power leveling fantasy with loads of S3X. Just think of Reincarnated as a Slime, but this time he's a goblin and he eats/fucks anything that moves. That's it. That's the show. Maybe you like it, maybe not, but go into it with an open mind and no expectations of this being objectively good. It's just a simple and fun show. Was Spring 2024 a good season overall for isekai?
I mean, it's alright, like, overrated as fuck in my opinion. I mean,
The New Gate, a title that I thoroughly enjoyed as a manga, completely fell on its face and ended up being a whole lot of nothing. Maybe it was poorly adapted, or maybe I overestimated how good the anime was. The New Gate's concept is that it ends like Sword Art Online. They beat the final boss, but instead of being teleported back to reality, the main character is kept within this world but hundreds of years later. The manga is really enjoyable, so I don't really know what made it not work. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but maybe someone down in the comments has an idea as to why it didn't work. As a Reincarnated Aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world was also another isekai that flew under the radar. It had a solid premise and wasn't requiring you to do too much thinking. The best show I can relate to this was how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom, and I really like the concept of that show, but I think Reincarnated Aristocrat does a much better job with this idea. So much so that it already has confirmed the second season for October of this year. Not a lot of isekai shows get that kind of renewal or traction, so for this show to go underneath a lot of people's eyes and expectations is quite frankly a miracle that it did. The premise is very mature, with our main character Ars aware of political instability and inequality within the empire that he lives in. This is the opposite of a power trip fantasy, as Ars does not have the strength or magical aptitude. Instead, it is a show about using your wit and having to use your intelligence to try and maneuver through a fantasy world. It is probably the most underrated and underwatched of the isekai shows this season, with only having 40,000 users rank it on MAL. This show has my highest recommendation, with Seventh Prince getting my second spot. Finally, A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics stands as our only reverse isekai from this season, and to be frank, it is the best show of the bunch. at least for me, as I know a lot of people won't get into the concept of a princess from another world living with an impoverished detective. It is a very strange but fitting concept, and I've always enjoyed reverse isekai somewhat more, with shows such as Uncle from Another World, Recreators, and Restaurant to Another World being some of my favorites. It is a light-hearted comedy show that you don't need to watch carefully, and I would also recommend this one if you want a breath of fresh air within the genre. With that being said, my overall ranking of the isekai series this season has to be as follows: Jobless Reincarnation, Tsukimichi Moonlight Fantasy, Konosuba, A Salad Bowl of Eccentrics, Slime Season 3. As a reincarnated aristocrat, I'll use my appraisal skill to rise in the world. I was reincarnated as a 7th prince so I can take my time perfecting my magical ability. Chilling in Another World with level 2 super cheat powers. Reed Monster, The New Gate, and the banished former hero lives as he pleases. I know this was a shorter video, but I'll be on a work trip this weekend, so I apologize for that. Next week, I'll be doing a recap of all the anime airing this season, and then we will be doing a review of the most requested show in the comments below of this video. So make sure that you leave a comment, a like, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.